Greetings, photographers and editors. How's it going? Welcome again to Mastin Labs Photo Editing Deep Dive, where we take a look into some of the specific editing styles or techniques. We analyze them, we play with them, we experiment with them, and not in a way that we're trying to tell you the wrong way or necessarily the right way to do, but a way for you to take a different approach, get a new perspective, and maybe another way for you to edit your images. We want you to be able to create your beautiful work easily. So if you love editing your photos almost as much as you love capturing them, or if you're simply looking for tips or perhaps some inspiration on your next project, welcome home. I'm so happy to see you here. I'm delighted. In fact, my name is Casey, and let's take a seat, get comfortable, and talk about photo editing. Really quick, before we get into this, if you do find something of value, I invite you to become a subscriber to our channel. There's a little button down there, and by subscribing, you'll make sure you never miss a tutorial, a guide, or any of our edits. And it's a fantastic way to support me, to support us, and this channel, and help us make better content. We always love seeing your comments and suggestions for other videos. To all of our current subscribers, thank you so much. We love you. And to the people who have yet to subscribe, thank you as well. We love you too, don't worry. Let's go ahead and get started with today's edit. In this video, we're going to be comparing two of our most colorful and vibrant presets, Ektar 100 from the Adventure Everyday pack and Cinema 400 from the Cinema Everyday pack. So we have two everyday packs. Let's go ahead and we'll jump into the first image and get started. Now what I'll do here is I'm going to create a virtual copy for each, and we'll run through a quick edit. I'm just going to be using the three-step workflow unless there is something that I'll need to call out, but let's go ahead and just work the three-step workflow. If you're unfamiliar, we do have a video all about it, but basically it's you apply your look, adjust exposure, and correct for white balance. So first, I'll go ahead, I'm gonna apply Ektar. You'll see, of course, the white balance for this being underwater is always gonna be a little wackadoo. It is way off. So I've applied the look, now I'm going to adjust exposure, and I know your brain is telling you, look at the white balance, but just hear me out. As soon as we are adjusting for exposure, I'm just looking at this person, I'm looking at the shadows of the image, I'm trying to take the color out of my mind, very hard for Ektar. And now I'm going to think about, okay, I'm at a good exposure, what needs to be introduced to this photo? So we already see this huge swath of green, and in an image like this, my first instinct is to push some red into it to counteract the green. Here we have the tint slider, and this is the first place that I'll look. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just start to push that in, and as you see, as I'm pushing in all of this wild amount of magenta in here, it's acting with a little bit of normalcy. And now that we have this sort of normal, at least more normal place for the starting photo, I know I can just use the temperature slider to warm that up, and we're gonna get to a place where it looks right. Oh man, that looks awesome. Okay, so just quick, this is our three-step workflow. We went from here to this, apply the look, adjust exposure, correct white balance, bam, done. And yeah, it's as simple as that. So here's our look. I think if we wanted to do something else, I might actually bring it down just to give a little bit more mood to this image. And there is so much noise going on under here. I wonder, I could apply dynamic noise, and I think that this is, yeah, it's ISO 200. There's so much noise at ISO 200. So our dynamic noise isn't going to do a lot for this because our dynamic noise scales based on the ISO that you shot a photo at. The higher the ISO, the more it will apply a noise reduction to it. So I'm actually going to hit denoise here. I went down to my detail panel. I'm going to hit denoise. The dynamic noise reduction tool is great if you don't want to have to go through this process of waiting for the noise reduction to be applied. But I mean, it does such an amazing job. This is just, it takes too long for me to want to do it on a bigger project. But for something like this, just as a single photo, I think it works. It's going to work really well. We'll go ahead. I'm going to speed up the edit so you guys don't have to sit through this. Okay, there we go. So this is the version of it that has been denoised, just to give you an idea of how awesome this tool is. We'll go ahead, I'm gonna move over, and you can see this just how, that's so noisy. Okay, now I'm gonna move over to this one, and it's so much less. Yeah, such a cool tool. Okay, here's our edit for Ektar. Now I'm gonna step into Cinema 400, and we'll take another stab at this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and again, we're gonna apply our look. You'll see these greens are so much deeper. It's a lot more rich. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm gonna push in that sort of normal magenta. Here it looks like I'm getting a little bit less. I believe in the other one it was like, let's take a peek. Yeah, 107. So here it looks like my brain is telling me this is about right. And now I'm gonna push in a little bit of that warmth. Maybe my brain was wrong. I'll give it a little bit more magenta. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you'll see that one of the biggest differences between these two photos is sort of the presence of green and sort of the undertone of warmth. What we're getting from Ektar is this very colorful. It is hyper focused on bringing up this color into your, into the viewpoint. It's made for travel. It does such a great job in sort of a tropical environment. You can really see what it's doing with these greens. With Cinema 400, you're getting a much more cinematic look. The colors are still there, but they're a little more true to life and perhaps a little less contrasty. Let's see, I'll do a before and after. Here's our before and after with Cinema 400. Ooh, and I'll go back to this one. And here's our before and after with Ektar. I'm really curious what you guys think of which one you will like between these two. Leave a comment, one or two, which one you like. And we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next image. We're going to go ahead. I'll create another virtual copy and we'll do our same deal. I'm going to go over here. Let's do Ektar. You'll see like right here, I mean, immediately Ektar is so contrasty. You're getting a lot of crunch. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to manage skin tone with Ektar. So again, we're just going to walk through our 3-step workflow, apply the look, adjust for exposure, and I'm going to cool it down a little bit. I don't know, not too much. I want to keep some of that warmth in there. Maybe I can push the exposure a little bit more. And yeah, right about there is looking good. Okay, so there's our Ektar edit before and after. And now I'll move on to Cinema 400. We're going to do our same steps. Here we go. And I mean, I'm thinking this photo, for me, I think this wins. I like the look, and when I adjusted exposure, the skin tones really seem to sit naturally at least in this white balance, but it does a great job. Let's take a quick comparative look between these two. There we go. So you can see Ektar over here, there's a lot more warmth. Especially I'm looking at her dress. On this, it's a little cooler. You can see some of the green for perhaps the surrounding environment is creeping into this yellow, and it is not doing that here. I think in this one, yeah, I think Ektar wins for me on this one. I think it's just, it adds a little bit more warmth and colorful and color to them. I think I could warm this up a little bit now that I'm taking that second look. But there, it's pretty close. I think both are great edits, but for me, Ektar wins this one. Again, let me know which one you guys like better. I'd love to hear it. Okay, now next we'll go to this one. This is a great one. And you're really gonna see a very big difference between these two. So let's go ahead, we'll do our Ektar edit. Here, you're gonna see a big punch of green. Yep, there it is. It's like turquoise. Man, it's so cool. I wish I could have been there on this shoot. It looks like a lot of fun. So I'm gonna go ahead, I just straightened it a little bit because it was bothering me. And here we go. Okay, so I've adjusted the look. Now I'm going to bring down my exposure a little bit. I'm actually going to use one of our tone profiles. And the tone profiles are really just there to mitigate contrast challenges you may be facing. Soft will recover data, so it's lessening the contrast in either of those regions, whether it be highlight or shadow, and then you have all, which affects both. And hard, and we'll just roll over just so you can see the difference, adds contrast. So if I need more contrast in the highlights, you go to highlight hard. If I need more contrast in the shadows, you go to shadow hard. But for this one, I'm going to use all soft. I think it just is going to sort of give me a little bit more balance to this image. Yeah, and with this and all of our presets, you can see if I use the preset slider, it is affecting. So 0 being not applied at all, 100 being applied as I clicked it, and 200 being sort of double strength. For this one, I mean, 100 I think looks good. It does a good job of bringing back that detail. But there we go. I think if I don't know, the colors on this one look pretty good. I know I didn't move to the white balance, but I think it was looking good from the get-go. Maybe I could use a little bit more warmth. Ektar is a great preset that really loves being warm. It loves a lot of light. And I think in a situation like this, it's okay to go a little bit buck wild on that. Maybe brought in a little bit of green. Yeah, right about there is looking pretty good. Okay, here's our before and after. Now, Cinema 400 is a much different look on this one, and we'll go ahead and I'll move to this, and you'll see immediately like these greens, while still present, are not overpowering the photo. You're getting a lot more you're getting a lot more color focused on the couple themselves. I've applied the look. Now I'm going to, let's see, I can adjust my exposure. It feels like, I mean, with Ektar where I had to rein in that contrast, on this shot I don't. I actually like the shadows coming in. I think it does a really good job, and it just feels more natural. Even though it is a tropical environment and it definitely is a different style, I think for this one, I mean, we'll take a peek. And if I'm looking at these two side by side, I mean, I'm going with Cinema 400 on this one. I think it feels a little more cinematic. It feels a little bit more natural colors. I do like Ektar. I think this is definitely somebody's style out there. This sort of that hyper saturation that you sometimes get with Ektar, and it looks good. I just, for me, my taste, I love this natural look. I think this one is the winner. Let's go ahead. We'll move on to our next image, and we'll take another look. I'm going to go ahead. I'll create my virtual copy. Move into our Ektar. Okay, now this one is going to be a tricky one, if only because of this big highlight area behind them. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll bring up our exposure a little bit. I think I'm going to cool this off and maybe push just a hair of magenta. Push a little bit. Maybe I cooled that off a little bit too much. Okay, there we go. That's looking good. Okay, so bing, bang, boom. There's our 3-step edit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use lens correction and see if we can. There we go. Lens correction just helps to take away the vignetting and a little bit of that distortion that you may find, especially if you're shooting more wide open with your lens. But there you go. You can see that warmth from Ektar. You can see the warmth from Ektar is creeping into these highlights. I think it looks really good, but let's take a peek and see how it works on our next one, which is Cinema 400. There we go. And yeah, okay, I'll do my 3-step workflow. I am pushing in a little magenta. I'm going to cool that off a little bit. Ooh, a little bit too much. See, I mean, that one doesn't take too much. I feel like, well, on this photo at least, I didn't need much for it to feel pretty good. Okay, I'll go down. I'm going to do my lens correction on this one too. Just even out that exposure. And maybe I went too hard on the exposure. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And you see, I mean, there is some warmth here. Obviously, there's sort of the time of day that it was shot. But between these two, I mean, yeah, I think, I don't know. I guess I like Ektar on this one. I think I really like the warmth that it brings in these highlights. I like the greens better here on the grass. I think if you're looking for something that is perhaps more of that Fuji 400H look, the greens that come from Cinema 400 are a little closer to that versus Ektar, which can feel sometimes nuclear, but I think in this particular setting, it works really well. And again, love those warm highlights that you get. All right, we have our next photo. We'll go ahead, create my virtual copy. It's an awesome photo. I'll move up and we'll do our Ektar edit first. Go ahead, apply the look. I don't think I need to change the exposure, so I'm just going to cool this off a little bit. Bit too much, and I'm going to push, just because there's so much green here, I'll push a little bit of that magenta back in to their skin, although I think I went a little too far. With the tint slider, it's always good to be a little gentle. A little goes a long way. But yeah, okay, so here we go. I don't know. That's pretty good. I think, again, Ektar is a film that really loves to be warm. So erring on the side of warmth is going to be okay, especially in an environment like this. It looks like it's sunset. It looks like the sun's coming down. That warmth is really bringing a lot of color into this pink dress that she's wearing. And yeah, I think I like how that looks. One tip for white balance specifically is you can take the temperature and go way off, go way in the wrong direction, and go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And when you start slowly, like you'll find a spot. Your brain will find a spot. Like if you're not looking at the temperature slider, and you say, here looks right. So I don't know how close that was to my previous one, but I think this looks right to me as far as this goes. You can do something similar with the tint slider. You just go way too far in one direction, and eventually you will come and rest on a good spot, or one that your brain thinks is good and looks natural. Right there. Sure. Again, I don't know how close that was. I wasn't looking, but that feels right. So, okay, we'll move on to our next one. We're going to go for Cinema 400. Boom. Okay. This is certainly, it has a much brighter feel. I like the more golden. I feel like in this one, we're getting a lot more, yeah, there's a lot more pink, especially right here. But I feel like I'm getting a lot more of a golden green hue. It feels a little bit more nostalgic. I'm going to push a little bit of magenta in there and maybe I'll cool it off right there. Again, I mean, between these two, I like this look being a little bit brighter. I think it works better, and Cinema 400 can deal well on sort of the higher range of exposures, where Ektar, you start to blow things out because it's a little bit more contrasty. Now, between these two, I think it is pretty similar. There is, I mean, just specifically right here in these highlights, we're getting so much more warmth. Her skin tone looks a lot more full here, certainly a lot more saturated. But for me, I think I like this look better. It feels more like film. It has a more cinematic quality to it. And I think it looks really good. Again, my personal preference, but I think this Cinema 400 on this one is a winner. Now we're moving on to our last photo. Thank you guys again so much for sticking with us. Please do make sure, let me know what you think of these edits. I always love hearing about your personal tastes, whether you like that more cinematic look or you want that super hyper color from Ektar. Ektar certainly is one of the most popular and well-loved of our presets. Okay, so let's do our three-step workflow here. I'm gonna adjust exposure, not too much, and then I'm gonna cool it down. And right now, I'm looking here as far as like a neutral goes. It looks kind of gray, and maybe I can pull it a little further. There is still a lot of orange in her skin. If I really wanted to get rid of it, we do have an orange reduction tool. You can just go down and click on that, and that just kind of takes the edge off of that orange. I don't use it on every photo, but sometimes if I feel like the orange has gone too far, then applying it is good. So I took it away and added it back. It's really subtle, just there to take the edge off. But I think for this photo, I'll keep it off so that you guys will have a better comparison between these two. So now I'll go here. I'm going to apply Cinema 400. And I mean, again, here's those golden skin tones, very different. And I'm going to push more exposure into here. As I'm bringing up the exposure, I don't think I brought it up quite this much. Yeah, a little bit less, but I feel like I'm getting brighter exposure overall. And that is just an easier place for Cinema 400 to exist. It likes light. Ektar does too, but this has a slower roll off when it comes to the way that exposure moves through the colors and moves through sort of the tonal range. Okay, now I'm going to use just a little bit here, and I'm going to cool this off a little bit here. Yeah, I mean, that's looking pretty good. I think those are fairly similar, but let's take a peek. I think you'll really be able to notice the most in the skin tone. And it actually looks like there's some other areas as well. If I'm looking down here, sort of in, I don't know, maybe it's hay that's on the back of a truck or something. If I'm looking down at this hay, you can see there's just much different tone and colors here. And here you're getting a little bit more warmth. These blues feel a little bit more natural. And yeah, overall, I don't know, I could see a use case for both. For me, this feels more like here's a portrait of this person and person behind them. And this is more of the sort of sunset end of day photo. It has more warmth. It certainly has a much different vibe. For me, I am more of the Cinema 400 camp for this particular photo, but it just depends what you're looking for. So let me pull all of these up, and we'll take a look sort of side by side. For me, I think that both serve a great purpose. If I'm looking for warmth, if I'm looking for vibrancy and color, I think Ektar is a great place to be. It works really well if you're trying to lean into contrast, or if you're in a situation where you are shooting under like big diffusion, like a huge cloud, and you need to add more contrast into whatever you're shooting. I think that Ektar is a really great fit for that. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more natural, a little bit more true to life when it comes to color, and a little balanced, a little easier balance when it comes to editing at times anyway, and produces perhaps more realistic skin tone, I think that Cinema 400 is going to absolutely knock it out of the park for you. Really, both are good, but this is just an easy comparison for you guys to take a look and decide for yourselves. Please, again, do let us know in the comments below. If you do have any other questions, always reach out to us at support@mastinlabs.com or directly at m.me/mastinlabs. I'll do my best to answer as many questions that are in the comments as possible. But thank you so much, and until next time, have a great day and happy editing.